I'm Joanne Tomkinson. I'm here with the Thomson Reuters Foundation. They have a website you might know called AlertNet.
And I'm Robert Kirkpatrick. I'm a technical advisor to InSTEDD and chair of a group called the Open Mobile Consortium. And I'll be talking about InSTEDD's role in the partnership we'll be presenting on today.
Okay, so we're here to talk about a project called the Emergency Information Service, or EIS for short. This is a collaborative project between the Thomson Reuters Foundation and InSTEDD. And the aim of the project is a simple one, really. It's based around the idea that in the middle of a disaster or crisis, access to information can make the difference between life and death. And this is something that's kind of fairly well established. In the World Disasters Report in 2005, the IFRC sort of laid that out. Information is a vital form of aid in and of itself. Disaster-affected people need information as much as food, water, shelter, etc. But even though that's kind of gaining ground, it's becoming a common idea, in practice, there still isn't a joined-up mechanism for aid organisations to communicate to affected people, people affected by earthquakes, conflicts, etc., where they can access services, so where they can get food, where is their nearest health clinic, that sort of thing, this basic but kind of vital information. In reality, actually, there's much more effort still in sending information out of a disaster zone to the international media and to donors than there is in kind of joining the dots between aid actors and communicating to affected people. And what there also is untapped potential in terms of collecting information from these people, because people affected by crises are in fact not passive victims, but they are the first responders. They do a huge amount of the work themselves. When a disaster hits, they are on the front lines, and they have the potential to contribute much more to the information flows around a humanitarian crisis. So what we're suggesting with EIS, the idea behind it is to create a kind of crisis news agency for affected populations, to streamline information flows to them. So the first part of that will be a kind of open collaborative space for disaster-affected people, for aid organisations, for government responders, for scientists, for anyone, citizen journalists, anyone involved in this with information to share, to collaborate that into one space. And that will also hopefully give affected people an opportunity to influence the course of the aid effort by reporting back to aid organisations information that will hopefully then change the course of the effort. So if they say, well, this water pump is no longer working, or we've run out of food in our village, in real time that can be relayed back through this mechanism to the people responsible for providing that. And what we're also hoping to do is bring the local media into this. Now, what we're using will be the kind of tried and tested skills, the journalism skills that through the Thomson Reuters Foundation we have at our disposal to not only collect this information but to relay it back. So, you know, we've got this space, we've got all this information, but how do local people know? You know, how are they going to know which information is relevant to them? They don't have the time, the capacity, or probably the infrastructure to be sifting through huge amounts of data. So what we're going to be using with this project, kind of leveraging the sort of journalism skills to relay back verified, actionable information to local people in real time. And this will be integrated with the kind of existing systems and actors that are already doing this sort of work, but we're hoping to join the dots with this system and allow everyone to utilize this. You might wonder why the Thomson Reuters Foundation wants to do this. Well, you know, we're a kind of charitable arm of a company that's based on the principle of getting the right information to the right people at the right time. And this is very much what we see the Emergency Information Service as doing to people affected by disasters.
We were approached by the Thomson Reuters Foundation about this project, Emergency Information Service, and it was very exciting at InSTEDD because it was a way to bring into the space where we were working in crisis response technology tools that could actually be used to really help media organizations, local, national, and international, be more effective in the critical role that they play in the hours and days following a disaster, a sudden onset emergency. And so we started looking at the requirements for the system, and it's of course complex because there's a complex ecosystem of interacting actors within any disaster response. You know, we're talking about attempting to allow news organizations to create content more effectively, to collaborate internally and between and amongst themselves, to create content, to use the local population and NGOs and government as sources, and also have those entities be recipients of these information flows. So what we did is started an agile iterative design process trying to understand what the system would need to look like. And what we realized as we got into the conversation was that we actually already had a technology at InSTEDD that we could use as a critical component within the design of this system. About a year ago, we developed this technology codenamed RIF, which was an event detection engine. Now, this was originally developed as a kind of open media surveillance platform for detection of disease outbreaks. It aggregates content in the form of text messages, emails, RSS or Atom news feeds, and pulls that content into a central location, then subjects it to a combination of automated analytics and machine learning along with human collaboration, essentially social metadata, allowing users to tag and comment and link and rate information. And we thought, well, we designed this as a characterization and sense-making tool. What if we could actually build a content management system that would allow journalists to collaboratively create the content of stories in the midst of a crisis on top of a platform that was designed to separate out that needle from the haystack, to filter signal from noise, so that they could be more effective in understanding what was happening on the ground as they themselves were creating content. So that's the direction we went. And the workflow has come together. The workflow, as Luke, who spoke earlier, can testify to, has continued to evolve. Journalists have ways of doing their work, but those aren't necessarily the ways that will work best in an emergency. And we're still working on trying to figure out what role volunteers and first responders and unauthenticated citizen responders will play within this system, and how they receive content and how they submit it. So just want to make the point here that we're very excited about this project. It is based on open source technology. We're going to open this up to the open source community. We do need partners. We don't want to duplicate existing efforts. We want to make sure that we can interoperate with other tools that are out there. And we need your support. We've built a working prototype, but we want to build an offline client that will actually make this a truly world-class system, and we need your help. Thank you very much.